Guys, today I'm going to break down one specific stock that has extreme upside potential. It's a company that recently teamed up with the defense sector's fastest growing disruptor, Anduril. This company I'm going to talk to you about today is getting prepared for maximum manufacturing output and explosive revenue growth. They have military spec technology that leads their industry niche by at least 3 years. For context, what you're looking at behind me is the GDP of all NATO countries. Currently, these countries spend about 2% of GDP on defense, or about 860 billion per year. However, NATO recently changed their target to 5% GDP. This means a whopping $2.15 trillion will be spent per year on defense. This is a catalyst that my stock, Kraken Robotics, is set to benefit from. Let's get straight into why I think this stock could be a multi-bagger. This is why stock today, Kraken Robotics, could outperform every stock in your portfolio. It has a ticker symbol KRKNF. There is a Canadian ticker symbol PNG.V if you're looking for it. I put this into a category of high risk, higher reward. I made a video on it the other day, and before the video it was at 328. After the vid it was at 438. I said in my last video it would be a 5x in 5 years. Now, I don't say that lightly, I don't say that often, so let's get into why I actually believe this could happen. First, we need to explain what does Kraken Robotics do. Well, Kraken Robotics provides advanced underwater sensors, high-resolution sonar, and high-endurance battery power systems that can reach depths of 6,000 meters. These are vital components and are essential to the next generation of unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUV projects, including those developed by Anduril. You can see over here on the left, this is the Ghost Shark, essentially an underwater drone developed by Anduril to do various things like carry payloads. Now Anduril, obviously I showed you a little teaser of what Anduril is, but now I'm just going to show you a little introduction to Anduril and what they're doing in the subsea.
We are definitely going to be a publicly traded company. We are running this company to be the shape of a publicly traded company.
While defense technology can be unpalatable, it's one of the most in-demand industries, as countries and venture capitalists turn to technology to deter escalation. And in only 8 years, Anduril is at the top of its game, making AI-powered hardware for militaries including autonomous turbojets, submarines, drone jamming systems, sensor towers, and virtual reality headsets. The company was co-founded by Palmer Luckey, who started and sold Oculus, Brian Schimpf and Trey Stevens, both ex-Palantir, and Joseph Chen and Matt Grimm. One of its largest investors, Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, just led Anduril's $2.5 billion funding round at a $30.5 billion private valuation, more than double its valuation this time last year.
The last domain that is left open is subsea, period. It's mostly unprotected, is kind of the upshot.
Why, when it is clearly such a wide open, vast risk, has there not been the advances in sea, open water and subsea technology like there has been in air and space?
Yeah, it turns out it's really hard.
So why should we pay attention to Anduril? Apologies if you've seen the last video, this slide is reused. Anduril is disrupting the legacy defense industry by using a Silicon Valley model to rapidly develop high-margin AI-powered autonomous systems. Over here you can see Anduril's revenue essentially exploding as time goes on. We haven't seen Anduril's 2025 revenue yet, but it's been growing at over 100% a year for multiple years now, over 5 years, growing at over 100% per year. What is so good about Anduril? Well, first of all, their rapid R&D model. So the traditional defense sector is usually very slow, and Anduril provides the defense sector modern technology really quickly through fixed product sales and software as a service. Their software as a service is called Lattice OS, and it joins all of their drones together. Their AI-powered autonomy is their second advantage. Their focus on AI and drone technology that runs on real-time decision-making software, Lattice OS, like we just mentioned, taking data from multiple sources. For example, multiple drones in a swarm could communicate with each other in Lattice OS. You also saw a minute ago the Lattice OS technology in the headset, which is just honestly crazy. Blows your mind thinking and just watching that, like Call of Duty in real life. Now, the other advantage is that they focus on the affordable mass. They prioritize affordability and production volume over expensive bespoke machinery. The company is investing heavily in manufacturing facilities, and they believe that it's manufacturing capability that wins wars. So what is the thesis in relation to Kraken Robotics? Well, Kraken develops the batteries and sonar systems for Anduril's latest AUVs. Down here you can see a recent announcement that Anduril's Rhode Island production facility has just been built and will enable Anduril to increase production to 200 AUVs per year, which is essentially a huge announcement for Kraken, because if we see Anduril begin to ramp up production, this could hugely boost Kraken's revenue. So what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that Kraken's revenue could essentially 2.6 times in 1 year, 2.6x their revenue. If we see Anduril ramp up production in 2026, this is exactly what we could see. So if Anduril produces 50 units, which obviously is only a quarter of the 200 AUVs per year that Rhode Island facility can create, Kraken Robotics will see 100 million plus revenue. And this is just a rough estimate. I will get deeper into the numbers a bit later, but this is not including revenue from other projects that Kraken is engaged in. This is just a little bit of a taster of what Kraken Robotics can bring, and I'm just going to get deeper into them right now. So here you can see everything that Kraken Robotics provides. They have a catfish system, which is good for imaging and taking photos of the seabed, essentially scanning the seabed using some of their synthetic aperture sonar systems, which are down here. Now, these synthetic aperture sonar systems are sold to various different companies that create AUVs, just like Anduril. The SeaPower unit is perhaps their most profitable unit, and it is essentially their batteries that can go down to depths of 6,000 meters. They also sell LiDAR for underwater and acoustic coring and sub-bottom imaging. Now, they are a critical supplier for unmanned underwater vehicles, like I spoke about. Here you have a few. You have the Dive LD by Anduril. Here you have the Ghost Shark, which is the much larger XAUV or XL UUV. Over here you have a startup, which is the Euro Atlas Grey Shark, that uses their sonar systems. Down here you have the HII Remus, which is another AUV which has been used by the American Navy multiple times. Here you have the Sea Raptor, which is in the UK. This is still very early innings for this AUV. And then you have Ocean Infinity's AUVs, which use a lot of Kraken batteries and Kraken sonar. Ocean Infinity are famously the company that are contracted to search for the Malaysia Airlines flight that went missing. So if Kraken's batteries are what is going to be making them most of the money, we need to know how replicable are Kraken's batteries. Now, personally, I actually work in battery technology, and I would estimate that they are about 2 to 3 years ahead of any competition at a minimum, and this is because of multiple reasons. Firstly, the batteries are built to withstand the high pressure of depths of 6,000 meters, and they have a 46% higher energy density than competitors. So this gives them a huge advantage in 2 areas, because first of all, they are tackling a very niche battery industry, and they also have the highest energy density in that battery industry. Because I work in the battery sector, I'm just going to quickly explain some of how they accomplish the 6,000 meter depth, and they do this by essentially using pouch cells because they are soft cased. If they were to use a hard case cell, the likelihood is the hard case would crack and crumble under the pressure at 6,000 meters. They also package the cells in a gel-like polymer, which means that external water pressure is equalized across the cell and the cell doesn't break as easily. But the real moat is in the military specifications. Kraken's batteries have been tested by the official NAVSEA designated body, NSWCCD, and are advertised as being compliant with those standards. Now, this is really difficult to do because it means that all of your parts need to have come from somewhere. They need to have been sourced correctly and to military standards. The whole thing needs to have passed very vigorous testing to be NSWCC'd, essentially. So if Anduril's such a great company, why don't they just make their own batteries and save themselves a lot of money? Just do it in-house. Well, this is probably something that Anduril has investigated. The thing is, this would actually be costly to Anduril and would actually be very time consuming. Getting the batteries designed, prototype, tested, design adjustments, new prototype, tested, adjustments, final prototype, tested, small batch production, tested to military specifications. If it passes, then continue. If it fails, then repeat. And then, of course, build manufacturing facilities and testing capability up, and then start manufacture, then run into production errors along the way, which they have to rectify, and then eventually probably get to mass production, along with all the other steps that I've missed in any engineering project. In my opinion, it would be much more likely for Anduril to acquire Kraken, and if they were to acquire Kraken, it would probably be at a large multiple, meaning they'd pay much more than the current stock price. As you can see, Anduril has made many little tuck-in acquisitions before, including Dive Technologies, which was the company originally using Kraken's batteries, which is how Kraken and Anduril have become intertwined. Kraken sonar systems are also a leading technology, and you can see here some of their comparisons between conventional sonar and synthetic aperture sonar that they have patented. That patent obviously protects them and their technology, which gives them a nice moat and IP. Here you can also see a few other pictures that they can take that previously were not possible in such a high resolution. Another tailwind for Kraken is that they are essential to the growing subsea sector in general. Recent events like the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage identify vital need for better seabed monitoring and intelligence, and Kraken has the technology to do this. Offshore energy is a rapidly growing sector with 7,000 plus offshore oil and gas platforms, 200,000 kilometers worth of subsea pipelines, 4,000 offshore wind turbines, and 1.2 million kilometers worth of fiber optic cable. All of these are assets that need protecting by military navies, and all of this needs monitoring using tech that Kraken provides, not just from a military perspective, but also just from a maintenance perspective. Even if another competitor was to outcompete Kraken, the contract stickiness within navies and militaries would be very difficult to overcome. In the defense sector, once technology is integrated and tested in prototypes, switching suppliers becomes extremely costly in time and risk. Navies demand battle-tested gear and won't approve of component swaps that could delay critical programs. Here you can see that Australia has committed to 1.7 billion on a fleet of Ghost Shark submarines. You can see down in the bottom, one in Sydney, and the Australian Navy are asking for a fleet of dozens. So I mentioned that Anduril could produce up to 200 AUVs per year in their new Rhode Island facility. So can Kraken keep up with this production? Well, Kraken have brought a new factory in North America to the table. According to the CEO, the new factory will triple production. They've also said the new facility will allow overall battery production to reach 200 million Canadian dollars annually. So using these two lines, I have determined that previously the German subsea battery facility is generating about $67 million worth of battery revenue, whereas the North American facility will scale up to produce $133 million Canadian dollars worth of revenue. Now for me, this is one thing that I'm going to point out about Kraken, is that I think that they need more facilities and they need them fast. If the Rhode Island facility for Anduril is going to scale up to 200 units per year, Kraken need to be there to support that. Now, using some guidance from Kraken's investor relations presentation, where we can see batteries are anywhere between 1 million and 10 million Canadian dollars per UUV, 10 million being the Ghost Sharks and 1 to 2 million I've said for the Dive LDs, which is the other Anduril project. I've done some basic calculations saying in the year 2026, if Anduril were to produce 50 Dive LDs at 2 million Canadian dollars each, that would be 100 million Canadian dollars. If Anduril were to produce 5 Ghost Sharks as well in 2026, each at 10 million Canadian dollars, that would be 50 million Canadian dollars, making a total of 150 million Canadian dollars. Obviously, we already have the subsea battery facility in Germany running near capacity, and the 150 billion is larger than the subsea battery facility in North America. So for me, I need to see more facilities and fast. I don't doubt that management will continue to impress me with the scale up of their manufacturing. So here you can see their current revenue and net income. It's been growing at an incredibly fast rate, and management have stated that long-term targets are 30% revenue growth and 20 to 25% EBITDA margin. You can also see their net income in blue. If I assume a net income margin that stabilizes at around 18% and an average PE of 38, which is highly probable, as people are still very much Anduril blind. The cult following behind Anduril is huge. When people find out about Kraken Robotics, I believe that the PE ratio could push even higher. It's grown very fast, but I think that this doesn't even account for the growth that we could see from Kraken Robotics. If you want access to create custom charts like this one in the video here, you can create these yourself and easily find out averages over the past few years, easily layer on top of each other several different metrics. Then you can use my code STOCKS to get 15% off your Fiscal AI membership. It will support the channel, of course. Anyway, let's get back to it. And this is the growth that we could see from Kraken Robotics. Here is a valuation model made by someone in the Kraken community. It was made on Gemini, and on here you can input how many units of each type of UUV you want to see delivered per year. So for 2026, like I showed you earlier, I put 50 units delivered in 2026 of the Dive LD, and then 5 in 2026 for the Ghost Shark. The revenue per unit I've put at 2 million Canadian dollars for Dive LD, and then I've put 5.2 million for the Ghost Shark. Now here you can see the revenue from the Anduril program per year based off my assumptions. And using this, we can use the net income margin I showed you before, and we can see an implied share price at 38 times PE of 10.65 Canadian dollars by 2027, which is pretty much double what we're at today. Even though the stock has run up since the last video I made, I still believe it's double in 2 years. So other catalysts for Kraken Robotics include a potential NASDAQ listing. Now this would get Kraken Robotics a lot more visibility. Visibility would probably drastically increase the share price. Right now this is a hidden gem that not many people know about and is not very easily accessible. You can't trade this on Robinhood, for example. Now an Anduril IPO would also increase visibility for the stock massively, as Anduril would have to disclose where they get their batteries from, and Kraken Robotics would be listed. Like I say, Anduril really does have a massive cult following. Now when looking at my portfolio, I've actually been buying a lot more of Kraken Robotics, moving it up to a 6.1% position in the portfolio. I'm hesitant to keep buying any more as I don't want to increase my risk too much to a small cap play. I've been trimming HIMS, and I just trimmed a little bit of Texas Roadhouse the other day to fund the Kraken Robotics position. HIMS, you can see, has gone from a 10% position in my portfolio slowly down to a 4%, whilst other things like Kraken Robotics has been growing. Elements Health and Duolingo have also been buying them slightly, but nowhere near as much as Kraken Robotics. Now my portfolio is almost at the $100,000 mark, reaching $97,000 as of today, with £55,665 in my individual stock picking portfolio, with a rate of return of 129.4%, and my total return being £17,360. In my other account, which is just ETFs, I have a total portfolio balance of £16,905, which is up £6,512, which is 61.85%. And I can't wait to hit this $100,000 mark. Like Charlie Munger always said, it gets a lot easier after $100,000.
Hopping out Ferrari, my house is 3 stories. I'm still independent cause jobs couldn't afford me. The meetings were boring, for real I was snoring. The VP was fine, yeah, she treated me kinda corny.